We are live. Today I'm going to fill an order that took me a bunch of rejects to fill. Oops. Part of the rejects. And then I'm going to sand Hammerdactyl Mongoose film gates. Maybe all day. Oh, there's somebody here. Let's see who wants to talk. Admit, it's Aaron.
Figured it out. Discord took the camera, so now I killed Discord.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, okay. Just bored for some reason. My OpenSCAD is taking forever to render, and for an even stranger reason, my old computer that runs the 3D printer renders faster than my work computer that's gigantic.
Interesting. Hey,
well, it's a single thread, and I think that maybe I got a newer version of OpenSCAD on the work computer that
Can you move your webcam, Aaron?
Or myself. My stupid webcam.
I just got $300 worth of nuts and bolts from Albuquerque Bolt and Fastener for building the Mongoose and other products around the shop. I've got about 6 hours of sanding to do.
Do they just have like a minimum, or I've been to Barnhill, but they had a minimum.
They don't have a minimum, but they will charge you through the nose for a few small things that they don't have in stock. And it makes sense, right? They got to pay for shipping on it, right? And so often the internet is a better option. But if you're going to buy a ton of bolts, hundreds of dollars worth of bolts and screws and nuts, they're pretty good.
And they'll beat McMaster if I'm buying boxes of bolts.
M3s I don't know that they have a policy of beating McMaster, but like they have certainly in the past. 1,000 pieces 3M by 25. These are very common Hammerdactyl screws. I think these are the right ones. Both these have a shoulder on them. I don't love that. But this product.
But I don't know if you saw, but I just decided to be contrarian and get the Soval.
What's the Soval?
Because it looks almost exactly like the Ender, except for it's a direct drive.
Oh, cool.
Extruder.
I like that. How much was it?
$250 for the base model.
Reasonable.
So a little more.
Yeah, but I mean, not. It's if I wanted a direct drive extruder, it would pay to buy that thing rather than try and modify an Ender to save $20.
Yeah, and I paid the extra $50 for the fancy stepper drivers.
Ooh.
Don't know if that's worth it or not. But
did you get TRB 8825s or TMC 2208s, 2209s?
They don't say, but it's the ones that don't make so much noise. So the idea is that if I can print while we're sleeping, that will be a benefit, because the printer room shares a wall with the bedroom, and I can't print while we're sleeping right now.
That sucks. Yeah, I mean, moving all of this stuff out to the shop has been really very nice for Laura.
For Laura. Yeah, you get to sit in the cold, though.
Yeah. I got a hat. I ordered some Yukon Cornelius looking hats. I got a whole costume going.
I got a 5 kilowatt heater, but Sherry's afraid of it. You have to unplug the kiln and plug in this heater.
Oh, jeez.
Actually draws more current than the kiln, I think. So it was only $100 though.
Well, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Aaron, have you thought about moving the printers? Or maybe this silent printer has solved the issue entirely?
Yes, some may go into the shop, but thus far I'm too comfortable to want to try to do that stuff outside. A little worried about the temperature too.
Yeah. Let's see, Aaron. We got a guest. Jeremy North. Admit. I think you guys have met.
Don't know.
Hey, Jeremy, do you know Aaron?
No. Hi, Aaron.
Hi. I'm a QLabber. strangely enough, I'm kind of professional in optics and imaging, but that's not my hobby. My hobby's just the 3D printers and laser cutters and stuff.
Jeremy North is a. Well, do you want to introduce yourself?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll give you the introduction. He's a camera guy from England.
Okay.
I'm getting some kind of echo here.
Oh yeah, so turn me off on live stream.
Who, me?
Yeah. Oh, we got some comments here. Eric Bailey says hello. Hey, Eric. Nico Cazal says, hey, Ethan, you look like the forgotten son of Commandant Cousteau with that hat. Yeah, it's cold in here. I had to buy some new hats, but it's going. The printer's warming up some.
It's going round and round and round. I don't know how to turn you off on live stream.
So, were you watching me on Facebook?
Oh yeah.
Close that Facebook window.
Got it. That's better.
Hang on,
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna put these nuts in. Aaron, have you been making tiles for your house?
Yeah, well, I've been making cutters and stamps for the tiles. So Sherry was ready to maybe try to stamp out some tiles today.
Nice.
See how they probably test. I don't know. I keep on changing the design, but probably just test to see what they look like, and we'll probably. I'm a little bit more patient than she is, so I figure we'll want to fire and glaze a few just to see how that goes before we commit to a production run.
Yeah. How many do you have to make? Have you calculated yet?
150.
So, Jeremy, the backstory, I guess, is Aaron and I belong to like a making stuff club in Albuquerque called Q Lab. I guess a makerspace, what do you call it? And yeah, Aaron is retiling his kitchen with homemade tiles.
Well, a little more complicated than that, but yeah, it's.
What are you making them from, Aaron?
We're gonna do raku. So, still trying to figure out where that camera's pointed. It's weird. Yeah, so I we got an electric kiln. I figure we can probably, bisque all the tiles in 2 firings at most, but the raku glaze is a kind of labor-intensive process that's probably going to take quite a bit of work.
What's the sort of the base made of then?
The base?
Well, what's the actual tile made from?
I don't know that it matters a ton, but we have a popular clay here.
Okay, so it's porcelain.
No, it's that's the thing about raku. It doesn't wear all that well, so it's fine for a decorative tile on the wall. People make decorative pots out of it, but it's you would never put it on a floor. It would never live.
Okay.
So yeah, it's closer to a terracotta base that would be using.
So you're working out on a glaze to put over it to protect the surface, yeah?
Yeah, this is an ancient, I think, Japanese glazing thing, and it's really gorgeous, but it's not durable. So it's great for a decorative wall.
I've not heard of raku. What is that?
If you've seen them before, they tend to be, I can use terms that people would know here. It's kind of a precedent to nambe ware, but it's frequently have metal salts in it, and we tend to lean towards the coppers. So you get areas that'll be shiny copper, and some areas will be green and blue and turquoise.
Oh, sounds
depending
good.
on how oxidized the copper gets. Yeah, when you're doing the glazing, you put it in an oxygen poor environment, and then if you want the greens and blues, you burp it a little bit, and you let just a little bit of oxygen in. And it oxidizes.
And is the pattern random, or do you manipulate it, or?
Here's where it gets super cool to me.
Yeah, what we're playing with now is that the glazes tend to be highly patterned. When you're done, you get kind of a random, hard to control pattern. But we're putting some patterns on the tiles too. So that's what we're testing, is to see what it looks like I have my little arabesque tiles and see what happens when you try to put a fancy glaive over a pattern.
But so
I had
you're
some
also
examples.
making the pattern cutters out of 3D prints, right?
Yeah. So I'm 3D printing the tile cutting and stamping stuff.
Well, and then you spray on the material, or do you paint it on, or?
Yeah. I mean, you do your bisque firing, which I'm learning about this too, but I come at it from a different angle than most of the artists. But you basically, in my understanding as a scientist and not a ceramicist, is that a bisque firing is really a sintering, that they really don't totally fuse. They just kind of stick the particles together. Right. And then you glaze over a bisque. And there's something about that sintering that it grabs the glaze. So that's why almost everybody does 2 firings, because when you're doing a traditional glaze, it'll go higher temperature. The second firing will go through what they call a vitrify, where a vitrify is where I think it almost becomes like glass, where everything kind of melts and fuses together. Porcelain. Yeah. But we're not doing that on this ancient glazing technique. It doesn't get that hot. So they're just sintered and they're fragile, but fine for a wall.
Maybe in your house.
Tiles are the tiles pre-made and you just sort of color them on top, or are you actually making?
No, that's what I'm working on now. I'm 3D printing the tooling to make the tiles, to cut the tiles out of clay and stamp them.
Oh, so
Also, backstory, cool. Part of this is Aaron's wife is a very accomplished potter.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Or at least a potter. I don't know if she would.
I think she's great. I have a sherry-made pot in here somewhere.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid to talk about accomplished potter to English people, because almost all the YouTube videos we watch are from England.
Interesting.
Wouldn't they call you a ceramicist?
Because I'm working on it, because I'm trying to 3D print the ceramics too. I would say ceramicist is someone, I'm not necessarily an artist, but I'm learning a lot more about building things out of ceramics. She might be an artist, but I might be the ceramicist someday. I'm not yet. She's still better than me at that, but I'm catching up.
No, I was only saying that because obviously a potter makes pots, but you're making tiles.
Oh, no, I was thinking of it more. We live by a national lab and we have a lot of material scientists. So I think when you talk about people that know how to make things like space shuttle tiles, they might refer to them as ceramicists.
Okay. That's a very high bar.
Yeah.
Well, we live, I don't know. I mean, Albuquerque is a very strange place. I always recommend people, if they can find the Insomniac with Dave Attell episode on Albuquerque, because I thought it was perfect, because he stays up all night and sees what you can do in the middle of the night in various cities. And in Albuquerque, it was a combination of nerds and cowboys. And I'd say, that's Albuquerque. Pretty much.
I'd have to say Albuquerque is probably my favorite name for a city in America. So is that near Area 57 then? Isn't that in New Mexico?
That's more in Nevada. It's not too far.
Oh, okay.
I have a long story that I think I may have been looking at an interview to work there once that I didn't go through with. But part of the deal was they said, you're going to live in Las Vegas and you're going to have to show up to take a flight every morning to where you go to work and a flight to come home. And Ethan knows that my propensity for promptness is not great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd want to have a job where it depended on me catching a plane every morning.
Oh dear. I can't even get my head around commuting on an aeroplane.
That's what made me think it may have been Area 51. They didn't say much more. They said you're going to catch a plane in Las Vegas every morning and come home every night. And they didn't say much about that.
And they put a bag over your head until you get there, do they?
Yeah, probably.
Kind of wild.
They didn't say if the airplane had windows. That might have been.
Oh, yeah. And they say this is for aerodynamic reasons.
Maybe, yeah.
Do not love the first layer on this last one. Okay.
So
I'll be
Ethan,
back.
the other day when I chatted with you like this, the quality was much better. Is that because it was on Facebook and not this?
No, I mean I only chat people like live here through Google
Okay.
Meets. So you were on Google Meets. You're coming through okay to me. Oh, Nick says hi.
No, the sound's fine, but Aaron's camera's
Oh.
really crisp. But the ones
Oh,
on the
that's
other
weird.
side are all blurry.
My view of
including me.
myself and Ethan are both terrible, and my view of you is excellent. So
Oh,
Yeah,
it's the same.
same.
It's the same in reverse. Then.
I think
Okay.
that's the Google compression. I can see what's going out to everybody in OBS, and you guys look fine.
That's no big deal. It's just that I can't see what you're doing properly now.
Oh yeah,
Ethan.
well I'm small, so I'm just screwing together this order. Actually, I've had a lot of problems with this. So I had a misprint, and then this one wasn't quite perfect, and then this one also isn't quite perfect, and so I'm going to go on to the fourth print of this. I'm going to get it right. I mean, I've printed a million of these. I'm just going to switch printers and figure out what's going on.
And is that the Mongoose case then?
No, this was just an order, like a normal Camerdackle order that's got to go out. It should have gone out 2 weeks ago, but this one, like the rest of the order is ready to go. But that one print has been vexing me. I'll get it.
Okay.
Oh, Becky says hi. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go restart that print, and then, you guys can keep talking. And
yeah, no problem.
Be back with Sam.
I've kind of lost track of time. This OpenSCAD render must have been running for 45 minutes to an hour, and it's still going. I don't know what I did. It's not a complicated drawing.
So you're currently printing this sort of template for the tiles, is it, or there's something else?
Yeah, I use archaic 3D drawing package. Where making the models is fairly straightforward for me, but then it goes through this massive rendering process to render an STL, actual 3D file. And usually it takes 5 minutes, but my God, I've been wasting time for a long time trying to wait for this thing that's still going.
So what other projects have you got on the go?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I've been threatening to retire for a decade, and in COVID, I'm threatening again, but I have put down projects on 3D printers. Delta and others. Over COVID, I got a laser cutter running, so I've been playing with that. I've got a lot of little electronics projects. I've been thinking about trying to put out some kits just to test the waters.
To do what?
A lot of various types of temperature control.
Okay.
I've got one that I thought it was kind of cute. I built it for myself, might be useful to others, but I got 2 temperature probes. So the idea is that you put one in the HVAC system and one in the room. And if those 2 are particularly different in temperature, it turns on a fan to boost the HVAC. And I've got one that runs a smokehouse. Everybody runs a smokehouse. I've got one too. It's tough.
Is that for actually smoking meat and fish and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of variant. I don't know if they came out after I did it maybe 8 years ago. I did my first one. My latest one, instead of using a fan, with the help of one of the guys from QLab, which is great, I found affordable electric damper meant for ventilation, where it's just it's a duct with a baffle in it that's got an electric control. Yeah. So I altered mine to control that, and that'll be pretty neat because now I should be able to use just a few small batteries, and you could run a smokehouse for days on it. Okay, because it doesn't draw current all the time like a fan does. Okay. Yeah, it's just a baffle that opens and shuts and control your temperature that way, and then I can. Where'd you get the meat? Do you actually go and get it, or do you just buy it? Oh no, I just buy it. I'm not a hunter. Well, you hang it up in strips and just dangle it in the smoke. There's a lot of different things. Again, I risk stepping in it myself, but I do kippering among other things. So we'll get But my favorite is like steelhead, some of these American redfished.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Freshwaters. And but we've also I have not done bacon yet. I did, believe it or not, I did a early American colonial recipe for what they called lamb ham, which I thought was excellent, but it might freak out a lot of people because lamb is not a mild flavor in a ham.
No, it's quite
ham process. It's if you like goat or mutton, it's excellent.
It is with some mint sauce.
Yep, absolutely. You knew exactly what I did.
yeah, exactly. So do you slice it all up yourself, or do you get the butcher to do it, or do you buy
I don't know. I get big hunks of meat at the butcher and do some of the finished breakdown myself, however I need it.
And do you do any sort of like just dry cure?
Yeah, I've done some. Not a ton of that. I've thought about. It's kind of funny. In COVID, we haven't run the smoker because they've been throwing parties. So it's about time to do a dry cure because I'm not throwing parties.
Yes. Oh, so you can just take it to wherever you want for the wood or something, or
yeah, but it weighs about 350 pounds. So I need a few neighbors to come by to get it on the hitch. But that's what it's for, to take it to parties.
All right.
And and then I've got the controllers on it where I can. That's the big deal. If you go to a camp out or something, I've got something that'll run for several days on a few batteries to smoke meats.
You need to mount it on a little trailer.
Yeah, a lot of people do when they get a little bigger. This one's about as big as you can get to go on a hitch, but yeah, the trailer ones are not uncommon out in this part of the country.
So is that like the ultimate? Do you call it tailgating, where you?
Yeah,
you have
well, that's it. Mine's meant for
tailgating.
tailgating.
The truck.
Exactly. They will let me go into a stadium parking lot with this smoker on my truck, but they wouldn't let me take a trailer into a stadium parking lot. Yeah, so that's exactly what it's marketed for.
So what kind of hitch you got it on?
It's just a regular,
like a 3-point hitch or something, is it?
No, out here it's a 2-inch. It's a 2.
So it's like the towing ball thing, but how do you keep it from flopping around?
That's it. It just you don't. It's just a big, thick 50 millimeter square tube. Yep, big heavy steel bar. That's it.
Oh, and does the rest of it just sit on the floor?
No, it just the whole thing sits on a 2-inch steel bar that you just put into your trailer hitch and you go.
But you drive like that, or is that only when it's stationary?
Yeah, it weighs about 350 pounds, so it's heavy, but it's not too heavy for a 2-inch trailer hitch.
No, what keeps it stable while it's driving along? I mean,
cotter pin.
So it's got. There must be a lot of friction on that tow ball then.
Oh yeah, well it's not you pull the tow ball out. This thing replaces the tow ball.
Okay, got you. Now I understand. Yeah,
right.
I understand now. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were just sticking it on the actual tow ball.
No. It's you pull the tow ball out and it goes into the receiver instead of the tow ball. Yeah.
I know it. Cool.
So what other temperature controller have I done? For some reason, I seem to be doing them all the time. I've done beer.
But do you do that? Do you do that as just to do it? Because you can buy a lot of temperature controllers on eBay for like 10 quid now, aren't you?
You can now.
They're so cheap.
Yeah, you can now. My first one actually quite a bit less. I've been getting some from China for like $4 US.
Yeah.
But they didn't used to be available. There was a time when you could get a crappy one for $60 US, and that's when I made them.
Because a while ago I used one to make. I had a little heater unit, just a little element like a pool heater. So I thought I'll try and build something that I could use to control, to control the temperature in a like a water bath for photochemicals. And I got this thing on eBay for, it was less than a tenner.
Yeah, that might be the Chinese ones.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
It rendered, oh my God.
Let's
see what it reports. 1 hour, 15 minutes. Don't know why. Yeah. I'm going to give you a picture of the drawing. You will be amazed at how simple it is. I don't know what I did to make it take an hour, 10 minutes, but obviously. I think so. How do I share? Do I have to share my whole screen, or can I paste a screenshot? Let's see. I can try. I go, oh, present now. A tab. Oh, it's a Chromium tab. Okay. Did it go? Oh, there. Okay, I got you.
Oh.
Oh, it's covered. You can see it's just a little maze pattern on the right. I would have thought maybe 5 because I've got fillets and bevels on there, so it takes a little time, but. Not on OpenSCAD, maybe on Tinkercad. Yeah, in OpenSCAD, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's CSG. Yeah, it's constructive solid geometry. So I build all these primitives with shapes, and then I hit, render, and it figures out an STL. But I think it does a bunch of ray tracing and stuff to do that. Figures out where the external surfaces are, and then and that takes a while and takes a long while. But if you're a programmer, it's great because it's a programming language, and this whole tile here is 50 lines of code, something like that.
So is that raised? Sorry. No, I was only asking about the yellow part. Is that raised in relief, and then you just stamp it into the clay?
Yeah, that's the yellow part's. Yeah, exactly. The yellow part is raised, so I print that out in plastic, and then I just stamp it into the clay, and the yellow part becomes depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at it, you see this. Yeah, what you do is this is a stamp, so you cut it out with a cookie cutter. You cut a square, and then you just take this stamp, and it fits inside the cookie cutter, and boom, it puts a pattern on the tile. So this is how we are theoretically spending our Christmas break, is we're going to try to build a raccoon kiln and get that up and make some tiles. So hopefully.
Are the tiles going to be the same size as the green part, or is that the backing for the stamp?
Yeah, no, that's the size of the tile also, because this is just I don't know if we're actually, if I can go back to the regular render. It's not that helpful, but yeah, if you picture, I have like where now that I'm not on there, or how do I stop presenting? I see. Okay. Yeah, no, it's I cut things out. I have a little square cookie cutter. I'm not used to working in front of a camera where things aren't mirrored.
That's
so
okay.
It's weird. But yeah, I just have a little square cookie cutter like that I cut out the clay, and then that stamp in green actually fits inside the cookie cutter and puts the pattern on the tile.
So I was only asking because I was wondering if there was a reason for having the sort of the yellow outline, leaving a kind of an empty green square on the right hand top corner.
Yeah. The green is I don't know what to say. The green is the base layer, and the yellow is the raised layer.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
No, I was only wondering if you're going to have like overlap the designs so that the next tile would fit into that corner, but obviously not if it's a square.
Yeah, they're just square, and you can see if you lay them out, I can make various pretty patterns depending on how I rotate them. Oh, I've played with that. That was too complicated for the architecture, but yeah, I have the Escher geckos and derivatives of that, and I was pushing the wife to do Penrose tiling on the bathroom, but she may not. It doesn't go with the rest of the house. She doesn't want to. If you know Penrose is wild. Penrose fills a plane, but it is aperiodic. So they've got two shapes, and you can put these two, as long as you follow the rules, you can put these two shapes and tile a plane forever. But
yeah,
never
I heard about that recently on a podcast. There's a British podcast called No Such Thing as a Fish, and they come up with these wild and wonderful facts. It's really interesting, and they talked about this guy a couple of weeks ago, but it was quite hard to imagine it without seeing it in, the actual visually. But they said that he created these patterns that never ever repeat, and you just think, how can that possibly be possible?
Well, I started with the Eschers that repeat a lot. So then I went to the, and I've done, we haven't finished it, but actually this is for a stairwell. So the edges of the stairwell are going to be these tiles, but the tiles are too thick for the actual top of the stairwell. So the top of the stairwell is indeed going to be Escher geckos.
Okay, cool. And you will flip the tiles around into different orientations to get patterns in among the basic pattern.
Yeah, I have drawings, but basically that corner that's knocked out of the top right, the idea is that makes a central square.
Yeah.
So I put the four of them and make the central square, and then, yeah.
I understand. Got you.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, it's a K40 scale project. It's a 3 foot by 1 foot that can't be tiles. It'll be geckos. But we're still kind of arguing out the tiles a bit. We'll see. So we're hopefully going to make some tests. I'm surprised she hasn't come up here to complain about me yet, because I just finished that render, so now I got to go downstairs and print it. Strangely enough, it should take less time to print than it took to convert to STL. Yeah. I'm kind of sort of too lazy to learn that stuff. That's complicated.
How many tiles are you going to make?
Actually, I can give you the number. About. So I was trying to remember, because it's 32, a little bit less than 100 pattern ones, and another 50 to 75 edge plain ones.
Yeah.
And we're going to make custom edge pieces to, instead of trying to cut the tiles, because we're making our own tiles, I may as well just make the tiles the size we need to do the edges.
Okay. That makes sense. But would you take into account all the shrinkage and things like that?
Yeah, we already did a test fire where I computed the shrinkage before I designed these patterns, which are exactly 8% larger than we want them to be.
Wow. So, and will you just use one stamp, or will you make a few just so you don't?
We're still arguing about that.
Because presumably it probably won't wear out that much if you're just doing a few dozen.
Oh yeah, one stamp will make the entire 150, no problem.
Batch, okay.
But no, not right now. Just one. But the main bone of contention is, do we want to have it proper architectural with a single motif repeated everywhere, or do we want to do something goofier with multiple motifs? And we're still arguing on that one. I'm not certain where I fall. Yeah, this tile she's pro goofy. She was originally going to do it 100% goofy. And I was kind of thinking that being that neither of us are tile people, that jumping right into doing some sort of a random asymmetric, wall tiling set up from never having tiled a wall before might be, in my opinion, a bit too large of a step. So I was pushing for, let's try to do this kind of the way everybody does it, because there might be a reason why they don't do it that way. Or at least, it's like Picasso. I think it's safe to say Picasso could do a good drawing, and he did when he was young, and he started doing weird stuff when he was older and could do it in a way that didn't look like a kindergartner scribblings. No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Right. I don't want to break the rules before I really understand them.
So, can I ask about the sort of finish? The section which will be pressed into the clay, will that be coloured differently, or are you just relying on the light crossing it to show the texture?
Partially the light, and partially I'm thinking that the at least in the corners of the indentations, we should get the glaze will be thicker and collect. So I think that the glaze thickness is going to cause a color variation, but we won't know that if we're lucky, we'll know in a week, because we haven't built the kiln yet.
Okay. And the back of the texture, the back of the tiles, will that be textured sort of adhere better to the wall?
Yeah, we haven't actually figured that out yet. My best guess right now is we might sacrifice our sushi roller, which is a bunch of little bamboo sticks tied together, so it'll have stripes on the back. But
I was going to say, you could print something, surely.
I've thought about printing a pattern for the back too, because she was originally just going to do it on canvas. But yeah, I was concerned that the canvas may not be rough enough. We need something rougher than canvas. Yeah. Yeah, we could. We'll need to see if the clay doesn't stick to the 3D prints, then I think the 3D print is a little easier for this. The issue with that's what today's experiments are all about, is to see if I'm hoping we don't have to go to mold release. I'm hoping that at the very worst, we just paint it with paraffin. So if you have paraffin painted PLA, that it'll just not stick. But I'd better go and make my print so we can do today's experiment. Okay, catch you later.
Nice to speak to you, Aaron.
Yep, nice to meet you.
Okay. Oh, it's just working. So, nothing out of the ordinary. No. But I should have to give it a bit more thought. Yeah. Especially this time of year, because the days are so short. I just don't have time to mess about. But I should, I should do that. Thanks for reminding me. I hope so. I hope so. It's stuff like that that ultimately gets through. So is this your Mongoose now you're looking at? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So is that the film gate? Is that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see just about. It's a bit blurry, but I can. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that must take quite a while to make each one then, if you've got to go through all that. Mm. Mm-hmm. So is that the part that you have to spend the most time on, or have you got to do it on every single? Yeah. Yeah. Mm. So have you passed your? Have you? Because I heard, who was it talking about it? I heard last week one of the podcasts saying that you'd reached your goal of pre-orders and things. Was that right? Or yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. And are these parts, are they going to be like universal, or would you have to have separate ones for different countries with their various sort of rules and regulations? Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So the little the power socket, you call them a power brick, don't you? Are you buying them in bulk, or are you just sending these out saying, well, you've got to provide your own? Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So what's the actual working voltage of the unit once it's gone through the, the power brick thing? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. So have you ever worked on audio projects? Okay. Right. Yeah, years ago I was like really interested in hi-fi, and built one or two things. I've built an amplifier, Class A amp. You know what Class A is? It runs very hot. It's to do well when I don't fully understand. Yes, of course I can. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so effectively, with an amplifier, audio amplifier, your sound signal is a sine wave of some kind. And so what they do in most amplifiers is what they call AB, where so the sound wave, the positive side is amplified by one transistor or one set of transistors, and the negative side of the sine wave is amplified by another one. So in the middle, they switch over from one to the other, which causes sort of, it can cause certain distortions, albeit small. Whereas Class A, the whole sine wave goes through just the one device or the one set of devices, so they're switched on all the time.
I see.
And
I see. A lot of current.
basically, yeah, lots of current. So you've got to have massive heat sinks on them, which that can create sort of a lot of stresses and things. Anyway, I built one of them. The idea being, you get nicer sort of, you get less sort of harmonic distortions and things like that, and switching distortions. It's supposed to sound more analog.
I see.
So the other thing, one of the other things I built was a digital to analog converter.
Cool.
To take the audio signal, the digital audio signal out of the back of a CD player and turn it into analog.
Interesting. Was that to then record it or to play it?
No, just to play back.
Through
a hi-fi system. So, yeah, but they were. I mean, I didn't design them myself. I was following other designs and whatnot. Sure. But it was fun. I used to do quite a lot of stuff like that, and tinker around with CD players and reclocking them and whatnot.
Reclocking a CD player?
Yeah, well, so basically, you've got in a CD player, you've got as in with any other digital device, you've got a clock. Effectively, a digital timing device. Right,
sure. An oscillator.
For the pulsing and whatnot. Yeah.
Quartz oscillator, most likely.
Yeah, but you can get more precision ones, and then what you can do is get a precision one, and then send a dedicated clock signal to each component which uses it, as opposed to them just sharing a common output.
Understood.
So they're a bit more dedicated that way. Messing around with stuff like that, really. But I haven't done any of that for ages. I was saying to somebody today, before I had a computer, I used to do a lot more stuff with my hands,
I've actually worked a lot on, a little bit on sort of different computer clocks in small electronic devices. I had this project that had to stay on for months. It was sort of slow time problems as opposed to fast time problems, where for months this thing had to stay on and wouldn't always have the internet. And so, it had NTP, which is Network Time Protocol. It would check a NTP server when it could get Ethernet, and then it would keep time on its own internal clock, which was an oscillator on the Arduino board. And then that would drift every once in a while, and so once in a while it would like check a battery backup clock and sync everything.
So you had to tune it so that the accuracy didn't change over months and months. Was that?
Yeah, well, so that it didn't lose time. So the thing is, like, the microprocessor would count number of instructions and try and, like, if you didn't do much with the microprocessor, it wouldn't drift much, and it was fine if you're on a 10-minute scale for a day or two. But you know, if it was offline for weeks, you wanted to give it a real-time clock that you would update with NTP when you could get it, and then the microprocessor really wouldn't drift any more than the
Okay.
Yeah. Hey Eric, we're talking about NTP. Do you know Jeremy?
Oh, not yet. Morning, Jeremy, or afternoon.
Hello, Eric. I've obviously heard you on the large format film photography podcast.
You poor soul.
No, it's been really good.
You're great,
really
kid.
Good. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Ethan. Don't make me snort my coffee through my nose. Not cool.
Right.
So you've become part of the team now, I take it.
Yeah, I think I'm still on like double secret probation, or like the comedy relief, or
You got to get your vaccine
or maybe
first.
I have to get my vaccine, or have to land like some amazing, highfalutin famous person as a guest or something.
You are a famous person. Adobe did a movie on you.
Well, somebody did a movie on Wayne.
I saw the trailer of your film about going out on your bike.
Mm-hmm.
That looked really interesting.
Yeah, hopefully, I should be able to show that. I'm still planning on showing that on the 2nd, so that should be good.
So
I just have to do a little test.
Because I also like cycling as well.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, your profile photo has a mountain bike helmet on, I seem to recall, yes?
Not a mountain bike. I'm a road cycle type.
Okay.
So last year I was down in the Pyrenees.
Oh, that's pretty.
Following the Tour de France. It's lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you win any stages?
In my head.
Nice.
No, it was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, and don't mind me, I'm also like running database queries for my day job at the same time, so I might occasionally get distracted. But if I was going to go to Europe to hang out and watch a race or races, I think Paris-Roubaix would be it.
Yeah.
I would have to, and also pre-ride it. If I could do the day before and then hang out and watch the race, that would definitely be Paris-Roubaix.
But the good thing about Paris-Roubaix as well is that if you work your route out correctly, you can actually go and watch it in several places on the same day.
Yeah. It'd be cool to see the finish too in the velodrome.
Yeah,
so awesome. Did you ever see the short film on Paris-Roubaix?
The one I saw was called A Sunday in Hell. It was made in the 70s. Absolutely fantastic.
I'm trying to think of who did
made
this.
by a Danish guy, I think.
There's a series of short films that Rafa commissioned, and one of them was on one of the. Hold on, I can't type and talk at the same time.
It's okay. I can try and find out.
It's a throw of the dice. Hold on, I'll put it in the chat for the meet. It's this really beautiful, like 14-minute short film. That's absolutely stunning. And it also, at the same time as they did this there's a series of like, let's see here, meeting details. Where's the chat? Where's the chat for this thing? Trying captions? No. Me and Google Meet do not get along.
Yeah.
Like it's totally, here, I'll just put it into the Facebook post for this thing. Anyways, they did a series of short films around this period of time. One of them was here. I can There we go. Now I can hear myself. It's really weird.
Yeah, well,
Delayed.
I got to come out of that because of the echo.
So this one, Throw the Dice, is really an incredible piece of storytelling. And it also goes into the background of the Roubaix area, why it's called the Hell of the North. And it has nothing to do with the race. It has everything to do with
No, it's something to do with the First World War, isn't it?
Yeah. And Johann Masseu's win of the Hell of the North. And then the other one that they did that was really impressive, that had a huge impact on me, was on a gentleman by the name of Dario Picoretti, the iconic, famous frame builder. Did this really beautiful short movie on Dario that was just mind-blowingly great. And years later, this here, I'll put this in here too. It's another really beautiful little Rafa film. Years later, like a year ago, 2 years ago, I actually managed to get to Dario's studio in Verona after he'd passed away to shoot portraits and interviews of the people who were left behind in the studio who are still carrying on the work at Pigoretti, basically. And it was an amazing day. Like if you can ever get to Verona and you have the abilities to kind of arrange for a tour of Picoretti, it's unbelievable.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, they're nice guys. I mean, they're incredibly nice guys. There's 4 people there now, and three essentially painters and frame builders, and then one woman who's sort of running the business, who's Dario's best friend, and she used to work at Brooks.
Okay.
Right. Wonderful lady. So, anyways, yeah, that's those 2 films are really great pieces of storytelling.
Oh, that's good. So I'm just trying to think. There are other 1 or 2. I mean, they're not artistic like the ones you've just described. But I remember there was a really, really interesting documentary a few years ago about the HTC High Road team.
Okay.
Because they were famous for their sort of their sprint train. It was when Mark Cavendish was riding for them.
Oh yeah.
That was a really nice documentary. But there's 1 or 2 out now. I think there's one about the Movistar team, which is more recent. But I just love the aesthetics as well as the sport.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the iconic climbs in the Alps and in the Pyrenees, etc. And of course, recently in the Giro and the Vuelta.
Cavendish is retired now, is he?
No, he made noises about it, and then he's just recently signed up for the De Koenig Quick Step team.
Oh, all right.
For this next year.
He's an Isle of Man guy.
Yeah.
As I recall.
That's right. Yeah.
That's another place I'd love to go. I'd love to go to the Isle of Man for the Isle of Man. Oh,
yeah.
I used to race motorcycles.
It's mental.
And I've known some people who've gone over there from the U.S. to race, and yeah, they're mental. They're not normal people.
I mean, they don't have straw bales. You know, it's just stone walls and everything. You know.
And where they do have straw bales, it's fairly. It doesn't really. It's like, why did you bother with that? Like,
yeah. Have you heard? Sorry, just to go back to the cycling thing, quickly. Have you heard of a magazine called Rouleur?
Yeah.
It's a British magazine. Have you seen it?
I have not. Over here, there seems to be a Peloton magazine, but we don't have Roulette. How is Roulette?
Rouleur it's just beautiful. It's like every issue is like a photo book with really interesting articles. It's just so beautifully produced.
There it is. I'm trying to find it. Roulette d'Assisi. Beautiful.
No, it's just called Rouleur magazine.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking at the website.
Okay. Oh, .cc. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I wonder who puts this together. Because here in the States, we have a really pretty magazine that Brad, a guy I know, is sort of like, it's, oh God, not besides bikes. Jesus.
But no, it's a British publication. But they have a sort of format where each section is named after part of a like a race. So you have the échappée and the arrivée at the end. and they have
Right.
articles on bike builders like the one you were talking about, on clothes manufacturing, part manufacturing.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep throwing these things into the Facebook posts.
Iconic rides and iconic,
Okay.
periods of races and things, and articles about, all sorts of famous riders like Copy and so on. It's a really beautiful magazine, but it probably costs the earth to get it in the States.
Yeah, I mean, but it might be interesting to see. I wonder if I could find who puts this out. I'm always looking for print publications to do work for.
Actually, yeah, they do. I think they do take because there was an article.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially if you can write an article. There was an article about a black cyclist from the States in one of the recent editions. It was quite interesting. Obviously, lining up with the recent movements and things.
A man or a woman? Because there's a few.
It was a man.
Okay. Yeah, there's been a pretty good movement, and the other interesting thing, Ethan, most of my work has been in the cycling world for photography.
Interesting. So, hey, do you know Jeff Orlowski?
The name sounds familiar.
He did Chasing Ice and Chasing Coral, and then he just did The Social Dilemma, but he also did a bunch of...
No, I don't think I met him.
Yeah, are there still a lot of cycling magazines, or not too many?
It's gone the way of
magazines.
Like print magazines are going. Yeah, magazines like the big mainstream ones are going under a lot, but there's been these little. Where's my query?
Yeah, basically, if you don't have an update on Brad and Jennifer, you're out of the magazine business these days, I think.
Well, what's happening is it's like photography as well. People who are really passionate are launching not always monthly, usually quarterly efforts that are really thick.
Yeah, I have a few like that.
Really beautiful, like Analog Forever, for example, in photography. It's a quarterly periodic art book. Right, that's just gorgeous, and people want them to collect them, and also
I have a few art books that a bunch of friends of mine made that I bought a bunch of to sit on as an investment, and also just so they could sell 7 more books.
Yeah, have you two seen Analog Forever?
No.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's a bit harder to get in the UK. I think there might be 1 or 2 stores in the UK that are ordering them now, but they're beautiful. My friend Ninian Kelly and another guy named Michael Berlin, I'm probably slaughtering his name. Anyways, they're producing that, and it's a really stunning, just like that, right? It's a big, thick, beautiful.
So if you can see that, it's kind of.
Yep, exactly. How often do they publish? Do they publish it?
So it comes out. I think it's every 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh, okay, that's pretty often. That's That's a higher turnover than I thought.
And there's a little bit of advertising, but it's not massively in there. So you've got there's an article there about the DeKernick Quick Step team.
Mm-hmm.
But they do pride themselves on the quality of the photographs. In the articles, nice. And it's always just beautifully laid out. And then at the back, for example, you've got the little section on the clothing and the various gear. But like Ethan was saying just now, it's a bit like the photography magazines. Mm-hmm. Most of them are all about gear, whereas this is more about the sport and the whole experience. I'll see if I can find the name of that guy.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I wonder. I probably know somebody who knows them. I have a friend.
Do you want to know the name of the editor, or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think it's Andy McGrath.
Andy McGrath.
But there's a load of names I recognise in here, and they've got contributors like well-known cycling pundits, especially here anyway. and they even have people like Roman Valdez, a regular columnist, etc.
Yeah, like Peloton, for example. If you look at this month's Peloton magazine, they've got like Graham Watson, the Tour de France commentator, and like that's the same thing, like there's only so many of these publications around now.
Yeah.
And so they attract a lot of really big talent, because where else are these folks going to put out work?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do? Yeah, it really sounds like the British version of Peloton, which is great. I think I love these high touch, high value, really beautiful images, not shot on iPhones,
things like that,
formulaic.
Like things about the history and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it.
Yeah, I mean, their Instagram feed looks really high on like the gear slut angle, but that's what Instagram is about.
Hey,
I would imagine.
I'm gonna jump in here, and I don't know if you saw it while I was adjusting printers. Andrew Bartram says, "Hey, Eric Matthew, aren't we supposed to do a podcast soon?"
Yeah, at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So this is the subscriber edition. So on the subscriber edition, you've just got rouleur and there's no text. Whereas the one you can buy in the shops, it actually has lists of what they're going to have inside.
Cool.
Anybody think I worked for them? I don't. I'm just.
You just love their
just
stuff.
A fan.
I'm just dead keen. Yeah.
Funny. Andrew harassing me.
Tell him I said hello.
Well, you can tell him. I think he's watching on Facebook. He says he thought it was in 10 minutes. He'll go back to sleep. What are you guys talking about on the podcast today, or is it a secret?
I'm not 100% sure.
Do you have a guest?
Nope. Sort of a year-end kind of thing.
Andrew says hello, Jeremy.
Good.
Andrew, I can hear you. Yeah, it's a pretty beast.
Hey, are there any photo magazines like that besides Analog Forever? There's Photo Classic. I know about.
Yeah, is that the one that's called? Yeah, or was it Silver Grain? Which is it came as one and then it changed its name. But yeah, that's one. And there are one or two that come out like periodically, but not regularly.
The ones
that makes sense.
Yeah, the ones that I'm into are the Christmas book from Matthew Joseph in Australia. I've been getting those. They're very good.
Oh yeah.
Nice. I think it's like the self-published zines are very interesting to me because like it's difficult to get work out, like books. Books are really intensely difficult to do unless you self-fund, and self-funding a book that's of quality and isn't print on demand is hideously expensive.
Yeah, but print on demand is so good.
No, it's not.
I mean,
no, it's not.
For the price, it is amazing.
For the price, yeah, but like
it's not art prints.
The reproduction isn't that good, Whereas if you want to do a genuinely high quality book, the way to do it is still like limited run from small boutique printers.
That is true, but for the rest of us, like, yes, it would be nice to have boutique printer quality. Like a couple of times back in the day, I would order a blurb book with like a sample color and contrast edit on each page, and then figure out which is the one that is most calibrated to my monitor, and then just do that.
Yeah.
Like it had some funky workarounds, and the quality of the prints is not like stunning, like collector's art, whatever. But like, for a zine or even just a bunch of pictures that are about something, I think it's amazing. So many Blurb
Yeah, I
wedding
mean,
albums.
yeah. I mean, I'm not knocking Blurb entirely. It just really, it just
That's
kind of
that
depends on
article
Not
about
what you're looking for.
the black dude. Just thought I just found it anyway. I don't think he's a professional, but I don't know. I can't remember now because it's a few months ago. But that's the
his
sort
name?
of thing anyway. His name is. This is great television, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah. I think it's less about the live stream for me than about like who shows up to talk to me. I would be sitting here doing this anyway. Otherwise, maybe I'd be watching movies on Netflix.
I mean, I'm just watching a giant SQL query churn away.
Uh-huh.
Good time. All about the data.
Yeah,
Can't find
earlier
his name.
we had my friend
ridiculous.
Aaron who was exporting something from OpenSCAD for an hour. Just kind of hung out while that was going on.
Well, it says words Chris Jones. Maybe that's his name. But he grew up in Baltimore, and it just became more and more kind of difficult. And he was talking about being abused racially and so on when he was out and about. So it's quite an interesting article. It's not just about cycling, it's about people. And whatnot.
Okay. Chris Jones, he raced with UHC.
Okay.
United Healthcare.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, I know who that is.
Anyway, yeah.
I know who that is. Yeah. No, that's not the wrong Chris Jones. This Chris Jones who raced for UHC is sorry, he's white. That's got to be the wrong guy.
Oh, okay. I'll go back to the drawing board.
No. Yeah, I wonder who that is.
Seems like there could be a bunch of Chris Joneses around.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a very difficult name to imagine.
Here we go. Ultimate Cyclist on Roller Conversations. Chris Jones on Being Black in Baltimore.
That's the one.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I love this stuff because going to look for the Star of Bethlehem, be back at 7 p.m. Dork. Like conversations about race and class in cycling are really going strong right now. Because this should come as no surprise. Much like photography is, and this is, I think, something that should also be talked about. It's dominated by upper middle class, and older, middle-aged, older
white guys. Yeah.
And I mean, it's just that's not an attack on the industry or anything, or it could be depending on how you look at it. It's just reality,
Yeah.
And if you go to any cycling event, professional or grassroots, it's all a sea of middle-aged and older, upper middle class, and upper white guys. And there's not a lot of discussion around the whys of that. And it's interesting
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, please.
I was going to say, I'm sure, similar to photography, there's an economic factor initially.
Yes.
Where a lot of people, say black people in the States and in other parts of the world, just don't have the means to buy the gear. I listened to a really interesting interview with a young girl from, I think it's Trinidad, and she's joined a professional women's race team, and she's racing in Europe. But it was just so difficult for her, to make it, because for a start, you've got to work to live, and if you're working full time, you're not necessarily having the time to do the training and the racing and the riding, and then there's getting to different venues and getting to different places where the races are. It's quite an expensive business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Because there are not many black professional cyclists.
No.
There was one that there was a guy called Daniel Teklehaimanot from, I think he was from Eritrea or somewhere like that, who raced for there's a really interesting team called, well, it was called Quebeca. It's a South African-based team that basically they run a bicycle charity. That their whole thing is to try and get people to ride bikes to get to work and so on. And they've got a professional team, obviously, and they're trying to promote cycling on the continent of Africa. But like you were saying, there's a massive gap between the white guys and everybody else.
Yeah. Yep. Big time.
Although,
and there's a lot of those. There's the economics, and there's a lot of like social things, that go into not just the economics, but like acceptability in sport.
Yeah.
If we look at not just cycling and photography, but also like football, European football, both like here in the United States, that's like soccer as it's called here. It's a pay to play thing. If you want your kid to play at an elite level, it's completely pay to play. Like you have to pay money to get those kids into high level academies. You have to pay money to get them to those tournaments. Like and there's a lot of kids from like Latino families and minority families who are immensely talented, who are incredibly passionate about it, who just they're not getting there when they easily could be, because it's all pay to play.
With the situation in Britain, well, in a lot of Europe now, particularly say Britain and France, where they've got much more of a sort of ethnic diversity in the country. Like all of the big clubs in Britain and France have got quite a lot of black players, but even so, the crazy thing is you get supporters of these clubs where they've got black players in their own teams who will racially abuse black players in a visiting team. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Countries like Italy, I think it's taken more time for black players to sort of be as accepted, although I think they are now, of course, because Italy didn't really have much of a connection with sort of black Africa,
right?
Whereas France and Britain obviously had colonies and so on, so that meant that there was a bit more of, sort of coming and going. But yeah, the whole thing, and as well as that, what were you just saying there about being acceptable and whatnot? I think probably a lot of places like, say, photography clubs and cycling clubs and whatnot would be run by white guys and wouldn't necessarily be as open-minded. So the whole atmosphere might be a bit more intimidating.
Yeah. Lost it there for a second, but yeah, absolutely. It's and it's a challenge, I think, for something that I think we're going to talk about, Jeremy and Andrew, and I know we're going to talk about it. Is how, like going back to photography, like how do we diversify our guests on the podcast? Like how does Ethan and his crew diversify the guests on the podcast? How do we become a lot more active in finding artists, women, people of color, especially in our niches. Like we have a lot of photography niche. It's a very narrow and deep thing. Ethan and those guys, Graham, like Nick, it's handmade cameras. Like that's a very
there's at least 30 people in the world who are into this.
Well, there's more than that with the eventual 3D printing, but it's still very deep and narrow. And looking at handmade cameras, like you have to have a certain predilection for it, and also to a certain extent, like the barrier of entry can be really low. Like you just need some cardboard and a pin.
Oh man, I've been trying
to a certain extent.
Yeah, I've been trying to get Francois Laverdure on forever, who makes cameras out of just like things he finds in the garbage, quite literally.
Right.
They're great.
Actually, that reminds me, I've got some guys for you. I'll send you a link.
Cool.
A buddy of mine here in the East Bay, they go into the environment. They go into beaches, woods, whatever, and they make a pinhole camera out of only what they find, including the lens, including the pinhole lens.
Awesome.
There's a little documentary that they shot on it. That's a little film. It's really good.
I would love to do that challenge one day when I can go out into nature.
Yeah, they're great guys. But again, like to get into making cameras requires some finances.
Money.
Right?
Yeah.
Initially, it means like you have access to a 3D printer, or you have access to some tools, or you have a photography background that makes you curious about the mechanics of it, which usually means you have some sort of level of secondary education, you know. And it just like it narrows things down so fast. That it's like, how do we get more people into making cameras? Like, how do we get kids from different economic backgrounds into making pinhole cameras? To the point where in 10 years,
the most important
a world famous artist making their own shit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What was that, Ethan? You cut out.
The most important mission is getting people into analog photography.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that's less hard now than it's ever been. I think there's a whole generation, and we've talked about this a lot. There's a whole generation of kids who are in their early 20s now, down in their teens, who've never produced anything that they can hold in their hand. Everything's taken with a phone. Everything's digital their whole life. So when you take out a film camera and then you show them the film, and this is like they're just like they're blown away. They think it's the coolest shit ever because they've never made anything they can hold in their fucking hand. And that is huge.
Part of the problem though is, I mean, because I can't remember, I think it might be the Sunny 16s or one of the podcasts a while ago was talking about trying to be more inclusive and whatnot. But you can't make somebody want to do something if they don't want to do it. You've got to make the thing so it appeals to a wider range of people, as opposed to sort of look. Otherwise, it's just a bit of like, what do you call it, tokenism. If you say, oh, we've now got our black guy or our woman or our Chinese man or whatever,
right?
Just to say, well, we've ticked that box. You know, you really want them to come to it because that's what they want to do.
Right.
And that's probably the hardest thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree.
I can't even convince my girlfriend, who I live with and spend all day with every day, to get into photography. Some might argue we need to convince us to stop. Hey, we've got some comments. Andrew Bartram says, I look like a Christmas elf. Yes, a little bit. That's what I'm doing. Nicole Small says hello. And Chris Robertson says, hey, I got my X Pen in the mail today. I'll be assembling it tonight. Awesome, Chris. If you're still there, maybe I will be sanding mongooses and you could assemble it on the live stream. If you need any help, I'll give you some pointers. That's the end of the comments. Trying to do my diligence.
Minor pause while I try to figure out what the hell's going on with this query here at work. Data.
What time is it where you are, Rick?
10:39 a.m.
Oh, are you West Coast?
Yeah, I'm in San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
In the Bay.
So what time scale are you in, Ethan?
It's 11:39, so I'm an hour ahead.
An hour east.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
About 1,000.
What do they call that? Mountain time or something?
Correct.
Right?
Mountain Standard Time.
Bingo.
Okay. How many zones are there? 5, is it, or 4?
4.
Across the mainland.
There's Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. So yeah. I think I'm about 1,000 miles from Eric, and maybe like 800 miles from, or maybe only 500 miles from the time zone line, but about 800 miles to California. It's a lot of miles.
Yeah, that's about right. I don't think it's that far.
I've done the drive in a single shot once.
I mean, obviously I've done the bike ride, but
Take a lot longer.
a little bit.
So do you ride a steel bike, Eric?
Mostly steel, yeah. I think there might be. I'm trying to think of what's out in the garage right now. There's too many bikes in the garage right now. There's no such thing as too many bikes in the garage right now. I think there might be some aluminum frames out there, but mostly steel. Trying to think of. Okay, Americash is steel.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say well, sort of in this late summer, early autumn, I finished off two steel projects, renovations that I was doing that I started ages ago, but kind of ran out of steam and then picked it up again. So I finished them now.
Nice.
Yeah. So one is the if you look at on my Facebook profile, is that, what did they call that thing at the top of your page on Facebook? I don't know, but there's a picture of my old rally when I rode it up to the top of the Col de Lison in the Alps, and I recently did that bike up, so I had it resprayed in the original colours and that, so it looked new. And then I went looking on eBay for a load of what they call new old stock parts for it.
Nice.
So it's nice. And then the other bike I did up used to belong to an elderly gentleman who's a friend of mine, and he got too old to ride it, and he gave it to me because I used to sort of look after it for him. And it's a Falcon from the early '60s, and I did the same with that, except I made it into a kind of, I don't know if you've heard of a style called porteur, which is like a delivery sort of bike, French styley. So I've sort of done that with it. So it looks quite nice, a bit old fashioned. Yeah.
Oh, that's not working. Nice. Yeah, there's actually have a man. That's the older style frames is such a, and away we go back into bicycles. Is such a. Give me 1 second. Scoring result equals. Just have to track down this change here.
Bikes are nice.
Bikes are very nice. Bikes are super fun.
It's probably one of the best things ever invented, really, if you think about the impact it's had on people's lives.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Eric, did I tell you that I kind of got into camera building circumlocutously from buying and selling bikes in Madison, Wisconsin?
Interesting.
Oh, in Madtown, the yellow jersey, baby.
I was buying and selling bikes because I maybe we're a dust.
Breathing in the plastic fumes.
Yeah, well, it's just dust. Maybe I'll cut it down.
I meant dust, actually. Yeah.
So I was buying and selling bikes and like making a living at it, sort of. But like, I almost burned more money in the time it took to live while I fixed a bike and sold it than I would make on the bike. You know. And I had a friend who did cameras in a very similar way, but they're higher value and easier to ship. So I started doing that, and that's how I wound up buying and selling cameras for years and years, which is largely having to do with what I do now.
There used to be in Madison. Why is that not? Okay. There used to be in Madison a really great repair shop right off of State Street. I don't know if they've moved. I'm trying to remember their name.
Big, like, brick building, right?
Yep. Like a half a block off of State Street. Yeah,
I live like 2 blocks from them on Jenny Street. What is the name of them? They're like right on the lake, right?
Yeah, they're probably still around. They probably just moved. That place was pretty amazing. I remember it well.
There was a couple of great bike shops in that city. They had those red painted bikes from the place over, I can't even remember the name of the street, the other side of campus, that like just put out these red bikes that you could rent for a semester for free or something.
Mm-hmm. Before the bike shares came out.
even while the bike there was there, like Madison was one of the early Plan B Trex bike share program test sites. Interesting.
Yeah. Result stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna go with fraud. All right. Yeah, what were you doing in Madison? I forgot to ask. What were you even doing in Madison?
So I had been working for American Apparel, and I got fired from that job in LA. And my girlfriend was in law school in Madison. She's a Wisconsin time, and so I'm there and was just kind of hanging around, riding bikes, fixing and selling bikes for a while. And then at some point, I started buying and selling cameras and got a shop. And
Got it. So you're there just hanging out with your girl while she was in school doing the hustle.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Which isn't, especially Madison. Madison's not a terrible place to do the hustle.
Yeah, it was a nice, idyllic little town. One of my best friends lived like down the street from me for the most, time I lived there. We just like make nice dinners. I lived, my backyard let out on the lake, so get a canoe and there's a swimming area near us. It was very like summer camp, but for years and years, it was great. I loved it there.
Yeah,
but
especially the summers. Summer in Madison's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe not the place I want to live long term. I really enjoyed it while I was there.
I don't know. I think I could do Madison again. I mean, I was born there, so like I said, you're one of the only people I could say the words Mount Horeb to, and you know what the hell that is.
Oh yeah. Everybody knows
it's in the Bible, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's this tiny. Well, it used to be tiny little town.
Okay.
30 minutes outside of Madison, Wisconsin. That I spent the first 8 years of my life in, but it's itty bitty. Yeah, now it's a commuter town.
They're also like right off the highway is their main drag, and so you can get off the highway and drive along the Mount Horeb Trollway, and people have made all of these little, yard troll gnome things.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And I think somebody like some large mail order sort of company relocated their headquarters from there to there recently. I can't remember who it was, but someone who sells like, lots of like rustic denim or something like that. So like Little Mount Horeb's gotten a pretty massive boost. When I was there, it was a sleepy little dairy town. Like the biggest business in town was the milk processing plant, right, where all the dairy farmers brought their trucks of fresh milk for processing the AM/PM plant. Just huge silos of milk, basically.
Not sterilized or pasteurized.
Exactly. And then the back half was grain. They'd come in, they'd pump out all their milk, and then the other half they'd come in with their pickup trucks and pick up grain and other things for their dairy herds. But I think a lot of those are gone because it's just expanded into like a large sprawling, condo, duplex kind of.
What's the biggest city in Wisconsin?
Milwaukee.
I thought it was Milwaukee. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's about 70 miles.
What made Milwaukee famous was a song by Rod Stewart I remember from when I was a kid.
Really?
Wasn't it about beer? Is it beer?
Oh yeah.
Makes sense. I don't know the song.
I think that's what it is. I don't know.
Milwaukee was and still kind of is, not as much, but definitely was a massive beer town.
But didn't they make engineering stuff as well?
Yes.
Just to support the beer industry, I'm sure.
Okay.
Well, yes, but also the Milwaukee is the western end of the Rust Belt. It's on Michigan. Great Lakes.
I thought it was up near the lakes. Yeah.
Yeah, the Great Lakes go all the way to Erie, PA, and the Erie Canal, which then connects the Hudson River at Troy, and then so ships from the Midwest bring things out of the port of New York. So that kind of built the Rust Belt, like I think all of the iron basically comes from this one taconite mine in Hibbing, Minnesota. So it goes down on trains, and like you can actually see in the Rust Belt, it goes along I-90 from Milwaukee all the way to Troy, New York, or I guess you could count it into Massachusetts there. But all of those places, as you go further east, you get further and further away from raw iron. So there were a lot of iron works in like northern Illinois and Gary, Indiana, right? Like the first places you unload those trains full of taconite pellets to make iron, and then later on you start making steel when you get to like Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, or someplace where they have the coal, right, that they put into the steel, and eventually around Ohio they start making cars again. Michigan too, but like I guess they were making them in Wisconsin way back in the days of like AMC, the Kenosha Cadillacs, but yeah, that whole thing was like iron and steel and manufacturing relating to pathway that iron goes from Minnesota down to New York City.
I heard a really, really interesting discussion on a history podcast I listened to by this guy, and he said that the geology of the United States dictated the political layout.
Very much
He's
so.
saying that when you look at the map of the blue states and the red states, because it's the other way around in this country, where blue is right wing and red is sort of left of center. Was over there, it's the other way around, isn't it?
Well,
yes.
So is it blue Democrat?
Yeah, well, the parties themselves have switched their ideologies multiple times.
Yeah.
Like they could say that the Republicans are the party of Lincoln, which is technically true. But back in the day,
anti-slavery,
right, Lincoln was holding the Union together, was a hated Northerner, etc. And but then at some point in time, they started switching. They changed their political beliefs in order to get various, essentially, Southern votes. It's always been about getting the Southern vote. And making inroads into the South, the racially stratified South.
But this chap, he was saying about the geology, where obviously where the iron ore and the coal was, is where all the working class people went to. And they're the places where they vote Democrat more than the states where it's all, I suppose, farm workers and ranchers and whatnot, and other kind of agricultural produce, where they tend to be more Republican. I think that pretty well distills what he was saying. Right. But initially when you think, how can geology dictate politics? That just sounds silly, but it's amazing, really.
Yeah. And then it also comes down to so much of the American political system is based around the early compromises made by the quote unquote founding fathers to keep the cotton, the southern landowners who owned large swaths of land and slaves. The entire electoral college was built around ensuring that type of hold and power stayed in place. Because if they didn't make those compromises, those rich landowners in the South who were affiliated with the French and other foreign powers wouldn't have gone along with the founding of the United States. It would have been 6 states instead of 13. It would have been a whole different ball of wax. And that drove a lot of things. Actually, that drove the relocation of the Native Americans from Mississippi. The Trail of Tears and Andrew Jackson were driven entirely by mostly at the start by the Southern landowners. The first tribe to be relocated were the Choctaw, and they owned most of Mississippi, and they were farmers.
Wasn't there an issue as well in the Florida swamps and whatnot, where Indian
all
people
over
were
this
just
country
kicked out west?
That whole seaboard down there. It's mostly because the plantation owners and the farmers, the landowners, wanted the already developed land that the Indians, the Native American tribes, already had developed. And they didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There was already all this developed land and farmland. So Andrew Jackson just gave him the punt.
So with these recent developments, say as regards Black Lives Matter and whatnot, does that mean that the First Nation people are starting to get a little bit more sympathy behind them?
Yes, a bit. Very much so. And that's actually a topic for a couple of my upcoming projects. Hey, Bun. That once the pandemic ends, I've got some stuff I need to start, some trips I need to do, retracing the original Trail of Tears with an 1800s reproduction camera that I built myself and other stuff. So, but actually, I need to go. My podcast beckons.
Yeah, I gotta go make Laura some lunch as well, but I will
I'm
be
gonna go
back here sanding later.
I'm gonna go get my dinner. So, hey, look, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you again.
Yeah,
hey,
pleasure
thanks for hanging out, guys.
Good to meet you, Eric. I'm sure we'll meet again.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Be back.